Number one, you should be spending more time listening than you are speaking. 80% listening, 20% speaking. Point number two, greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Beyond Fluency podcast. My name's Liam.
And my name is Vance, and today we'll be speaking about building rapport.
Ooh, building rapport. Very nice.
Building rapport. Liam,
Yes.
what is rapport? Or at least, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Rapport is the friendly relationship that you can build with another person, in my mind. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
building rapport is the things that you can do in order to create a better, friendlier, deeper relationship with someone.
Yeah. So that would be the initial part of meeting someone.
Yes, I think it's that initial period of time that if you were in a intimate relationship, maybe called the honeymoon period, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
That's when the honeymoon period, that's when both parties, both people in the
Everyone's
relationship,
very in love and it's all
everyone is
nice and
yeah,
yeah.
like they
You
both of
don't
them think nothing but the best of each other. You haven't
it,
seen any of the negative or the
yeah,
bad or the
exactly.
dark sides, whatever you want to call it.
They couldn't possibly do anything annoying. They're just so perfect,
No, no, no,
right?
of course. Like everything, even the imperfections are perfect,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
ones, the very few that you are aware of at the time, So, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. The difference is in a professional relationship when you're building rapport, you don't really get access to that neurochemical driven euphoria and you have much less time to make a good impression, right?
It would make relationships, business relationships, it would make them very complicated.
Oh, more complicated, more complicated.
Very much,
Yeah,
very much.
yeah.
It wouldn't be just a sort of transactional thing every now and then. It would require other things as well, probably constant communication, and it
Well,
would be
I think you bring up an interesting point there because you mention business relationship being transactional. And
mm,
actually, when it comes to rapport, my view is that it shouldn't be transactional. To build good rapport
yeah, yeah,
with another person, especially in business, it should be about service. The best way to build relationships with people in a professional sense is to not think about trying to get something out of the relationship.
yeah,
You sell something to them, they buy something from you. That's
yeah, yeah.
transactional, right? The best relationships, whether that be personal or professional, come from mutual respect and no, what's the word I'm looking for?
Expectation.
Expectation. So going in with the mindset of how can I help this person or how can I
Yeah,
help this company? What can I do for them is a much more genuine way of building
of working.
relationships.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think starting with a question is a very powerful way to sort of maybe help you navigate how to best solve a particular problem.
Oh, absolutely. I think
So I agree.
it's not just about problem solving. The human condition dictates that we love to talk about ourselves. So by asking other people questions, getting them to talk about themselves, their experience, it automatically gives them the feeling that this person is genuinely interested in me,
Yeah,
in my life, my experience. That's a great way to build trust. Trust is the thing that is the difficult part about building relationships is creating trust
building a
between
trust.
people. Mm.
It may come across as an obvious thing, but the person has to actually want it because then if it's not, it then becomes exactly, we go back to what we did before. It comes across as transactional, like you just talking to me because you want something out of me.
Yes. You can
So
tell
you,
when someone is talking to
yeah,
you, you can tell whether
genuine,
someone
yeah,
is actually listening to you or whether they're in their mind thinking about the next thing they're going to say,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Active
Yeah.
listening is a huge part of rapport building, of professional service, I would say. How many times have you had a conversation with someone and you just know they're trying to sell you something? They're not interested in the details of you, your life, your experience, any of that. All they see is potential sale when they look at you.
Yeah.
There's something about the intention of selling that you can
Just gives
hear
it away.
you can hear it in the
Mm.
voice, you can tell by the language that someone is using, and you know whether they've actually been listening and engaging with what you've been saying.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's
You
very,
can
I mean,
sense
for
it.
me, it's incredibly off-putting.
Off-putting.
Off-putting,
Interesting choice of word there.
yes.
Off-putting.
When
Off-putting.
something is off-putting, it makes you feel like you want to separate yourself from the person, problem, situation.
So just sort of take a step away from it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Disassociate yourself.
Exactly. Something that's off-putting is not pleasant in a way that
Mhm.
prevents you from liking something or
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah.
If we simplify it, we'd say sort of the opposite of attraction. As opposed to it attracting you, it repels you. That kind of thing. That kind of
Yes.
behavior.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So how do you do that then in this phase of building rapport? Because take for example a conference. Now the nature of those kind of places is to network, and so everyone sort of knows that most conversations that are going to take place in those kind of environments are leading to perhaps or may most likely lead to the exchanging of information of some. So
What's the question?
in those kind of environments,
Right, okay.
how do you approach it
Well,
in a way that isn't
how
staying
do you avoid
transactional?
coming across as salesy?
Yeah, in those environments where it's sort
Yeah.
of like expected.
Yes.
Salesy. I like that.
Salesy, right? Yeah.
Salesy.
Yeah.
Salesy.
Um, I know. It's a weird one, but it works. I wouldn't even, how would you classify it in terms of language? Was it an
The sales,
adverb?
well, it's, I think it'd be an adjective,
Right.
salesy.
Hmm.
In terms of definition, I'd say trying to sell.
Yes. Yeah.
Having a conversation where you're
Having
clearly trying
the character or demeanor
of someone who's
of
trying to
someone that is
sell.
trying to sell you something, salesy.
Yeah,
Yeah. To avoid sounding salesy, um,
I like the word. I think I just like the sound of the word
it's
sales.
good, isn't it? Yeah. Because as
Yeah.
soon as you say it as well, you know what it's talking about. You get the picture in your mind of the used car
Do you think you could
salesman.
find salesy is in a dictionary? Like I think you'll find it in an urban dictionary for sure. In the urban
Urban
dictionary, I'm sure
Dictionary.
you'll in the
I
urban dictionary you'll find it. So the
Yeah,
urban dictionary, what is the urban dictionary? Leon.
Urban Dictionary is unofficial terms, slang,
Yeah.
and colloquial language that you'll find based on
It's pretty
location.
cool.
Mm.
I think it's what's great about Urban Dictionary, and it's a website you can go, you can check. What the Urban Dictionary has done is it's given access to kind of sort of slang from all over, pretty
Mm.
much English speaking, all over from all of the English speaking countries in the world, as many as possible. So you
Hmm.
get some Aussie slang in there, you get some Nigerian
Aussie being
slang.
Australian, right?
Yeah, yeah, you get
Yeah.
some Nigerian, you get pretty much everything, all kinds of like variations of slang in English from
Little
all
language
over.
nuggets.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see if Salesy
All right.
is in the Cambridge Dictionary. Okay,
It's not in Oxford, so I
it's
checked Ox.
not.
It's not in
You
Oxford
checked Oxford.
Learners.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not in there.
it is in. It's in the Urban Dictionary.
Okay.
Salesy.
Yeah.
I think of salesy as an adjective for someone who is cheesy, aggressive, and superficial salesperson of whatever product or service they are pitching. The insurance guy was so was too salesy and insincere for me to be comfortable working with him.
I think insincere is the key word there.
Yeah.
So, because someone who's only got their own interests in mind.
I looked it up as well on Google's Gemini AI, and this is it. Like, salesy is a term used to describe a person who uses high pressure, aggressive, and superficial tactics to try to make a sale.
Mm. Again,
Yeah.
like superficial, insincere, aggressive, yeah, salesy. I'm working with someone at the moment actually who works in sales, and they have just started working in the Nordic region. And so most of what they have to do is build their network. And in order to not sound salesy, we've been going through coaching for ways to approach people and start building relationships with
Rapport.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I mentioned, which goes back to the kind of environment you were talking about earlier, is think about it this way. If you're trying to build a relationship with someone, you should be doing 80% listening and 20% speaking.
Hmm.
And in that
So this
20,
is how.
the 20%
Yes.
speaking, you're asking questions, you're being curious,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
uh,
How else, if
and
you're
sh
listening, you must
and
obviously be asking questions, right?
yeah, and also sharing personal experience, because that allows the other person to get to know you on a deeper level. For
Yeah.
example, if you're asking someone about what their role is within the company and a what's a particular problem that you're having at the moment within that role, then you listen to the other person's experience and then say, "Oh, I can completely relate to that because I had a similar situation in the past when I worked here. I'd
Yeah.
love to get coffee with you sometime. Maybe I can give
Yeah,
you
yeah,
help
but
with that,
obviously
right?"
you build up to that, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't just
Yeah.
do that in the first 5 minutes,
I
right?
think I think the biggest problem with sales is there's an expectation that you have to get a lead, you have to get a sale as quickly as possible. And actually, if you spend more time just building relationships with people within your industry, eventually the sales come to you. It's playing the long game, but it's a more genuine way of working. And in the end, actually, I think you benefit more from bigger sales, uh, from having good relationships with the people that you work with. Even establishing a good relationship with someone and having rapport with them, even if they don't buy from you, they're going to recommend you to other people that they know who
Yeah,
may well need your services more than they do in that moment. So having that attitude of I'm here to help you, I just want to make a connection, the more you do that, the more likely you're going to get referrals. And referrals usually lead to sales much more than uh, cold selling, which is trying to sell to people who don't know you or haven't come across you before.
yeah.
In terms of that initial rapport building, have you got any tips for that in a professional capacity?
The one thing that I genuinely share with my clients is just have conversations with people you genuinely find it's interesting.
Mm.
You know, if you're looking around, there'll be something that will attract you to a person. If you feel the need to go towards a specific person, just go speak to them,
Mhm.
because you're probably going to have a genuine conversation there, because there's something about that person that's attracting you to it, as opposed to just aimlessly having a conversation, even just for the practice for the language, from a language perspective, right? Not just
Mhm.
from career growth perspective. A lot of people are shy. Part of the building rapport is they are not naturally shy, but they are uncomfortable rather speaking in English in front
Right.
of certain people,
Yeah.
and they don't want to come across as not intelligent as what they really are, especially in their own language, you know,
Mhm.
because they're unable to express their opinions in a manner in which they do so effortlessly in their own language. And of course, we know that a lot of the times in certain roles in business, as people grow, the content, what it is that you say, but the delivery of it as well are equally just as important. And this is
Right.
where they stuck.
Hmm.
It's not that they're not saying what they want to say, it's the manner in which they want to say it, because they
Right.
know that that is the influencing factor.
Hmm.
They've seen it around the table that people have come up with ideas, sometimes very normal ideas, but the manner in which the idea was presented, everyone was able to just see something great within the idea, and you know the idea was picked up and it followed through. They realize that.
Sorry,
So
I want to probe a bit further here
yeah,
with you. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to get further opinion on.
yeah,
So the first thing to me sounds like confidence in expressing yourself clearly and
yeah,
concisely and
yeah,
presenting in a way that is engaging. The other
yeah,
thing that I picked up on was potentially not understanding when you're listening to uh, someone that you're trying to build rapport with. So, two elements
yeah,
where a lot of our clients get stuck.
yeah.
So, I would just want to I want to speak to you about the confidence thing first. What do you suggest to those people who have that mental block about expressing themselves in English when they know that they could do it in their own language in a much better way? How do you get past that?
We spend a lot of time just asking questions, direct questions, indirect questions.
Right?
So what you were saying before, I encourage them to ask questions and then listen, and ask follow-up questions and listen. And
Okay.
that's what I encourage them to do. The people, it's especially people who are not just uncomfortable, but naturally are more introverted in their own language anyway. Another thing that I tell them, I encourage my clients to do is to ask people to speak slower or to repeat themselves
Mm.
when need be, because
Oh,
people feel so uncomfortable doing that. Um, but I've actually started telling a lot of my clients that it's think of it as something you must do. You know,
okay.
you must do it because you have to educate the other people,
Hmm.
the people you speak with. And I think most native speakers who haven't lived in a non-English speaking country, just it doesn't even occur to them that people might struggle with the language because it's just never been.
They don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it
basically,
doesn't even occur to them that
to
you
them
wouldn't know
it's
what a particular phrasal verb is.
yeah, yeah,
And
it's just normal language to them, right?
Mhm. The technique that I share with people most often, which kind of alleviates some of the pressure of saying, I'm sorry, I don't understand, is to mirror back to someone what they've just said to you. So the technique
Oh
is
yeah,
mirroring. So what you do is you repeat back to the person what you have understood they have just told you. And it works on two levels. It helps you to make sense or try to make sense verbally of what you've just listened to. And it B shows the other person that you're actually listening to them. And the fact that you're actively listening to what they've just said and are able to repeat that back to them builds trust and rapport. If you haven't understood correctly, it gives them the opportunity to explain again in another
what's meant
way
to.
that you might understand.
Yeah,
And what it does is it takes the pressure off. Say, one of the phrases that I really don't like for these kind of situations is, can you repeat that, please? Because the problem with can you repeat that, please, is they're going to say exactly the same thing again. So if there's an
yeah.
issue with the vocabulary, if there's an issue with the accent, and they say exactly the same thing, if you found it difficult the first time, you're probably going to find it difficult the second time as well. So by doing
Yeah,
this, you give them the opportunity to realize, oh no, I need to change how I'm explaining this.
I think I'm going to start using this a lot more. So whenever a question is asked, then the person would repeat. So if I understood correctly, what you
Right?
mean is blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Exactly.
okay, beautiful. That's actually a great one. I'm going to start. encouraging my clients to use that one as well.
It's so strong because it makes both people, it empowers both people in the conversation to naturally work out a way so that uh, there is
Yeah,
understanding between them. And it builds rapport. It's active listening and it's processing information for both parties, and it's allowing the conversation to continue naturally. The shame spiral of not understanding when you say, "Can you repeat that, please?" and you still didn't understand,
yeah.
it gets you out of your head. It helps you engage in the situation in the moment. And if you don't understand everything, it's okay because you're giving the other person the opportunity to explain again in a different way.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really,
Yeah.
really
It's the
useful.
gift that keeps on giving.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. Exactly. Yeah.
The gift that keeps on giving. To wrap it up, what would you say? Gift and keep on giving. How would you explain that?
A never-ending circle. No,
Of pleasure.
of pleasure. All right, it's
From
not
good
that kind of
things.
podcast, Rams. Come on.
It's not that kind of pleasure. Yeah,
No,
the
the
gift
gift
that
that
keeps
keeps
on
on
giving.
giving is it's something that uh, gives you. Oh, it's really hard to explain.
It's a
Um,
benefit that just keeps returning. It's a returning
there you
benefit,
go.
more,
There you
more
go.
on multiple occasions. You continue to benefit from that one decision
Yeah,
over and over and over and over again.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it makes for clearer communication as well. I think the mirroring effect,
Hmm.
and I think you've really hit the nail on the head there when when you said it. It allows for more natural conversation to take place.
Yeah.
And it's just like you collaborate essentially in that moment, right? Because you saying I understood this, and they say, okay, I understood you understood this, but you missed this little part. Ah, okay, so I missed this little part. You're already starting to sort of work together, figure it out together.
And the
It's
final thing I want
really
to
good.
say on mirroring is that going through that process and solving the problem of what someone has just said in an interactive, collaborative way, it's so much better for your memory and learning and making the connections, the neural connections in the pathways in your brain to continue to do that in the future. Much better than, oh, what was the word? Putting it into a translator,
Yes,
right?
yeah. You're more likely to remember new
It's
words,
just
expressions,
from
and
the
to
experience of having that conversation, you're
having
gonna,
to work out. Yeah.
yes, exactly. You got to have
Yes,
the
man, it
challenge.
truly is the gift that keeps on giving. See what I mean?
Yes, yes,
Just
exactly.
linguistically,
Hmm.
in relation to relationship building,
Hmm.
in at work, um, for your own personal development, being a better communicator.
Yeah.
It hits the mark. It ticks so many boxes. Is it really is a gift that
T
keeps on giving.
ticks. I mean, you like three idioms in a row, Rams. Wow.
Yeah, it's
Ticking boxes, hitting nails on heads, gift that it keeps on giving. Wow, you're on fire today, mate.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think today I'm more in a listening mood. I don't know if you
Okay.
realize today because I've asked a lot of questions today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I've listened quite a lot, and so I think towards as we heading towards the end, I'm sort of processing all the information because
Right.
it's been a very great conversation for me today. I think I learned quite a lot and things
Mm.
I'm definitely going to be trying and encouraging my clients to do a lot more of. It
Mm.
was just yesterday I had a client who was talking about precisely this,
Hmm.
um, being stuck or being too afraid to say she did not understand.
Right.
Oh, so just politely nodding and
Yeah.
then just send me an email about this a little bit later. That's what most people, how most of our clients deal with that, right?
Yes, they
After every
deflect. Yeah.
interaction in English that they
Yeah.
felt like they missed something.
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing that
Mhm.
I love about mirroring is it allows you to follow your curiosity and become curious about the conversation. And in that way, it will always be good. for your language development. It will always be good for your relationship development because you're interested in the other person and what they've just said. And you're just
Yeah.
trying to clarify. And it doesn't make you feel bad about trying to clarify, which a lot of the typical phrases that you would learn in a general English situation, like "I'm sorry, I don't understand," that it just the power
Yeah.
of those words alone on your ability to feel good about the situation is very negative in my mind. So it's
I mean, I get it. I get it. It's not nice to admit that, right? Not
right,
knowing,
especially with someone you
not
don't know, right?
understanding someone you don't know in a professional environment where you're supposed to be an expert in
Yeah.
whatever the subject matter you're discussing at the time is. It's absolutely understandable. These are the sort of like the psychological parts of it that we we only started to learn more about ourselves once we started to speak more and have more meaningful conversations with our clients, I suppose,
Yeah.
as getting to the, but especially for the people who already sort of like B2, essentially C1,
Hmm.
that you speak to them and you're like, but what could possibly be the issue? You speak the language very well.
Hmm.
I understand you clearly. You understand me clearly. You appear not to have any issues in understanding.
Hmm.
Um, but it's that,
It's that it
so
gets
those
over
people,
that mental block that we were talking about
yeah,
earlier.
for
Yeah.
someone in that realm who's just able to, who knows themselves as well, like, look, I'm pretty good.
Hmm.
They meet someone, say, from Glasgow, and their confidence in English just dips. Like, I thought I
Listen,
understood, but I
when
think
I
I gotta go back to the basics.
listen, when I
It's,
speak to someone from Glasgow, I start to question my understanding of the language as well, to be honest.
I think most
It's
people would.
hard. It's hard to, I mean, the
I
Scotch
think most
accent
people would.
is
Yeah,
tough. It's tough to
yeah,
understand. So, yeah,
yeah. Anyway,
give yourself a break. All right, so I just want to come back a second, Ramps, to talk about a couple of the idioms that you just used.
mm.
Going back a little bit, you talked about hitting the nail on the head. What's the idea behind that? Give us your interpretation of it.
I like these type of idiomatic expressions because they within themselves already have a visual reference to it, and I think just knowing the words individually, I wouldn't
Hmm.
be surprised if some people already know those words conjure up images of those individual tools uh, that make part of that expression. So nails, head, nail. In this case, it's not on the finger, but the one that you would use to connect two pieces of things or two pieces of wood together, for example. And you can think of a hammer, boom, a hammer. So ideally, very skilled people, boom, they hit the nail once, maybe twice, and the two joint pieces are now uniform. So think you can think of that. So to hit the nail on the head is to precisely to do something in the best possible manner possible. Either great understanding of a concept or great execution of an action. You couldn't go better. You could have not done it better than that.
What
But
about ticks
it's
the
same.
boxes?
So, but like hit the mark and hit the nail on the head, it's the same. Accuracy, right? To be right, to be accurate, to do it the right way.
I see tick the boxes as more procedural. So
Yeah,
to
ticks the
do
boxes is separate. Yeah, yeah.
it's to do with doing all of the right things. In the same way
Mm,
that if you have a list of if you're trying as a teacher, you have to do marking. If
mhm.
you're marking an essay, for example, there are certain things that the essay has to mention in order to get a certain grade. And you have those in a list. And every time you see one of them mentioned, you can tick that box off.
If something ticks all the boxes, it means it meets all the necessary requirements.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it's separate from hit the mark and nail on the head, because that one is about requirements, where the other two is about more closely to related to accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
So yeah,
agree.
tick the boxes. Yeah. So if you were to wrap up what we've discussed today, in a
Hmm.
nutshell, what would you say? What would be the points you'd highlight
So,
for building rapport?
in a nutshell, the simplified version, I would say point number one, you should be spending more time listening than you are speaking. 80% listening, 20% speaking. Point number two is if you're having difficulty with understanding, use mirroring. Repeat back to the person you're speaking to what you have heard them say. Give them the opportunity to explain further or in a different way, and gives you an opportunity to process what has been said, has been talked about. And point number three, service is key to building relationships. Go in with the mindset of helping other people, not what can I get from this relationship. You're giving, not taking. That would be my three takeaways from today's episode.
Preach, brother, preach.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, you decided to throw in just one more idiom as we were doing, finishing it off. So, in a nutshell, can you explain what in a nutshell means?
Oh, I think you should. You've been the idiom king today.
In a nutshell, in a few words, the short version of whatever it is you want to say, the condensed version. So we say, in a nutshell, to say, this is the brief version of whatever I'd like to inform you about.
Whenever I hear that phrase, it just reminds me of the very first Austin Powers movie. Have you seen the Austin Powers movies?
But a long time
Okay.
ago.
All right. So in the
Okay.
first movie, he's there. He's talking to his to Liz Hurley, who's the female lead in the movie, and she turns around and goes, "Oh God, Austin, that's just you in a nutshell." And he turns around and go, "That's not me in a nutshell. This is me in a nutshell." And then he goes, "Oh no, I'm stuck in a nutshell. It's very small." Dad humor.
Monsieur, merci beaucoup.
Bien sûr.
That's as far as my French goes. So, thanks.
Yeah, I won't get into mine.
Maybe some point in the future we'll be able to say a little bit more than merci beaucoup.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All righty.
Right.
Cheers, buddy.
Adios.
Take
See you
care.
next week. Ciao.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.